Good morning, everyone. We're here for a commissioner meeting. The day is September 23rd. It's 11 a.m. now. Present in the room are Chairperson Melvina Latham, Commissioners Edwin Torres and John Signorilli. David Mossberg is here and will be taking minutes. Also present are Anna Rivas, Glenn Aline, Marcos Vigil, and Lazaro Benitez. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which took place on June 2nd of 2014. I believe the commissioners all have a copy of those minutes.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And would one of the commissioners like to move to accept these minutes?
Move.
Second.
Okay,
I agree.
very good. So the minutes from June 2nd are approved by the commissioners.
Unanimous.
Very easy. The next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report. That's me, of course. So I have a few things to report to you. A lot has happened since our last meeting on June 2nd. First of all, we've had 16 boxing shows in New York in that time, 6 of them upstate and 10 of them in New York City and its environs. We've also had 18 wrestling shows in that time. I've given you as part of your handout a boxer information sheet that we've created, one in English, one in Spanish, obviously the same information in both of those, which provides basic information for the boxers to know in terms of how the weigh-in is going to take place, what they can expect on the night of the fight, basic rules in New York. That's handed out to boxers at the weigh-ins just to provide this basic information to them and answer some of the questions they would usually have. A number of things have happened with inspectors since the last meeting. First, and certainly most important to the inspectors, is that they received a pay raise. We did some background research on this. They have not received a raise for 25 years, and it was important, obviously out of fairness to them, and also to put ourselves in line with other commissions are paying their inspectors, to give them this raise. The new rate of pay is $100 a day for inspectors. Obviously, they're paid on a per diem basis, and $150 a day for deputy commissioners. We have also held inspector training seminars, one in New York, one in Albany. The New York session took place July 8th, and the Albany session 2 days later. That was led by Keith Sullivan, one of our deputy commissioners. It was used both to train current inspectors, and we also invited prospective inspectors to the seminar, many of whom have now come on board, and we'll be speaking about who the new inspectors are a little bit later in the meeting. We've also, and I handed this to you as well, developed a document entitled Inspector Protocols, which lays out in a clear way the duties of the inspectors when they're working the fight. In addition to the inspector seminars, we've also held 2 other seminars, a judge seminar on September 6th and a referee seminar this past weekend, September 20th. Steve Weisfeld was kind enough to lead the judge seminar for us, and Harvey Dock led the referee seminar. At the referee seminar, we also had a neurologist speak, an ophthalmologist speak, and someone probably all of you know, boxer Michael Elijah, ex-contender for the world title, came to join us and to speak at the referee seminar.
Good fight.
In addition to recruiting new inspectors, we've also been recruiting new ringside physicians. We've recruited a total of 6 new ringside physicians since the last meeting, and 1 who was formerly with us has returned. So we're trying to build that staff as well. There's a particular lack in upstate, so we're trying to fill those gaps up there. Another initiative we started, we've been holding health insurance open houses. In conjunction with a vendor for the Department of Health, we've arranged several open houses, a couple here at the Commission, several at various gyms around the city. We've had several at Gleason's gym, had one at Mendez Boxing, and just yesterday actually we had one up in the Bronx at Morris Park Gym. And what we're doing is helping boxers and others in the boxing community enroll in health insurance plans through New York State of Health. So this is really an effort in conjunction with the Department of Health. And we've had great success in terms of boxers and, again, boxers' families, others in the boxing community attending these open houses. So we have many, many boxers who were not insured when we started this program on July 21st and now have health insurance. Obviously, it allows them to have a yearly physical. It allows them to be treated when they suffer an injury in the gym. Also among your handouts, I've included 4 commission bulletins for your information. They lay out, and I'll just mention them one by one. One is titled Selection of Officials for World Title Fights, which delineates our process now for selecting officials. Essentially what it does is it gives each boxer's representative a chance to object to officials, and if the objections are valid, those officials are stricken from the list, and the commission makes its selection of officials from the remaining referees and judges on that list. We've also outlined in a clear way our weigh-in procedure. In New York, for non-title bouts, we only allow a boxer to get on the scale once. We do make the scale available for at least 1 hour prior to the official weigh-in, so that if a fighter has to lose weight, he has time to lose that weight before the official weigh-in. Now, we have continued to allow for title fights boxers to have additional time if they weigh in over the contracted weight. Obviously, we don't want boxers losing their titles on the scale, so in those cases, title fights, we allow them an additional 2 hours to lose weight if they need to. Another commission bulletin has to do with the use of knee braces and sleeves. This was simply a clarification of an existing policy. As you know, knee braces are not permitted in the ring. The reasons are that it could create a danger to the opposing boxer, since knee braces normally have metal in them. Sleeves do not create that danger. We consulted with our medical staff and with Dr. Jordan in making this decision, and sleeves are permitted. And one was, in fact, used by Sergio Martinez in this fight with Cotto at the Garden.
Yes, he was wearing one.
All these saw. Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, we have a commission bulletin about flags and banners. A previous commission bulletin from 10 or so years ago essentially banned flags from the ring except during the singing of a national anthem. We have changed that to allow flags in the ring so that a fighter from another country or from this country can bring it with him during his ring walk. Obviously, we make sure and we look at these things ahead of time to make sure that it doesn't create any danger.
Do they ever? They sure show up. Last time.
Finally, just in terms of the executive director's report, a couple of issues came up at our July 26th boxing card at Madison Square Garden. I just want to mention those to you. Both of them took place during the main event, Gennady Golovkin against Daniel Geale, and both events took place in round one. In round one, and I know all of you were there, Daniel Geale tripped over a camera strap of a photographer who was ringside. What we have done is we have suspended that photographer's ringside privileges for a period of 6 months. We notified him of this, invited him if he wished either to appear at this commission meeting or to send a letter with his position. What he did was he sent a letter and he accepted responsibility and apologized for his actions. But he understands that the 6-month prohibition from working ringside as a photographer is in effect.
Is that 6 months retro or 6 months?
6 months as of
Today
as
or
of July
as of
26th.
July? Okay.
Yeah. The second incident
Excuse
that
me,
happened.
did that indispose the fighter in any way, the tripping?
No.
Well, I guess that would be a matter of debate. I guess everything affects a fighter.
He didn't do so hot afterwards, so yeah.
It's certainly not a good thing when
All right,
the boxer
no, you're
trips
just
in the
curious.
ring.
Go ahead.
And the photographer was asked to leave and eventually removed from ringside that night.
Okay.
I wasn't present. The fighter tripped over the cameraman's
The
equipment.
strap.
Okay. And I haven't
Yeah,
seen
that-
the fight because they asked us not to view it yet. All right.
Right, which brings us to the other incident of July 26th. The first round of the Golovkin-Gill fight was a 4-minute round instead of the required 3 minutes. You should be aware, I think you're already aware, that a complaint has been filed and a formal proceeding against the timekeepers has been instituted. And obviously that complaint is pending and a hearing is presently scheduled for October 2nd.
So
Next item.
to err as human does not apply.
To
1
err is
minute.
human. That's
Yeah. Much
I
Do
always
we have
like
a
hearing
policy?
Shakespeare at the commissioner meetings, and I guess to err is human always applies.
David, do we have a procedure for selecting timekeepers as we do judges and refs we for big events, but for timekeeping?
The procedure's no different. Timekeepers
We
fill
had a
out an
senior
application.
Timekeeper
They're
or
licensed.
or an inexperienced timekeeper?
No.
We have both. The
Okay.
2 timekeepers who are working that night actually are the timekeepers, I believe, with the greatest longevity here at the commission.
Okay.
I believe one of them has been working as a timekeeper for approximately 24 years, and the other for approximately 14 years.
Good.
Next item on the agenda, personnel matters. And for this, we are going to have to go into executive session.
Well, because this item on the agenda concerns personal matters involving specific persons and specific employment issues, often it's best for a commission member to make a motion to move into executive session so that these private personnel matters can be discussed in private.
May I make that motion?
Yes?
May I make the motion to go to
executive session.
session? Thank you.
Okay, is it seconded?
Seconded.
Okay, let's have 1 minute.
Yeah, hi, it's Gio. Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, it's Bruce, the Suffolk County Fire Rescue. How are you? All right. Well, I don't. Yeah, I am. Thank you. I able to connect, and she said push the far camera button, which comes up, but nothing happens. I scroll. It says automatic camera tracking off. It's like a, I don't know actually. We've had it for 5 or 6 years, so it's not new. Let's see. I could probably, look at it or something if you want. I don't know. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. I think it's a 7,000. I think this it comes back to me as something about 7,000. Something like. Have the arrows are left and right, and up and down, and hang up and call. Yes. Yep. And then the camera comes on. Yeah. Yeah, it says far, yes. It just says 0:08. I have a pip on my screen which I can turn off. Yeah, and it just says, now it says far, and I see the camera. It's just the time on the bottom. There's like a black area in the middle, which I guess is your screen. Where the area that I've connected to you. So anyway. Mm-hmm. Hang up.
It is now 11:38. We are returning from executive session. The commissioners have voted unanimously to ratify the termination of one inspector, the resignation of another inspector, the promotion of inspectors George Ward and Timothy Duffy to deputy commissioners with the title of chief inspector, and the hiring of 11 new inspectors. The 11 new inspectors are Attila Gerson, Joseph Schaefer, Elliot Reed, Christy Capolino, Ilya Mesishev, Calvin Cum, Ronald Janis, William Grogan, Mary Ellen Cox, Virginia Winslow, and Christina Villa. And now we are on to the next item of the agenda, which is new business. You received a number of handouts, all of which relate to the new business. The first order of new business, which we'll call for a vote, has to do with boxer suspensions. We are putting in place a new practice, with your approval, of course, whereby boxers who are suspended, for example, the 90-day drug suspensions that a boxer who tests positive for some kind of street drug will receive. The new practice, if you approve it, would be that suspensions will be measured from the date of the bout instead of the date of the suspension notice. The reason for this is that we want to create a consistent practice and equal treatment for all boxers. There are occasions where, in one case, we might receive results of a drug test 2 days after a bout. In other cases, a week later, depending on when our personnel looks it over, time may pass. And by measuring the suspension from the date of the bout, it puts every boxer in the same place.
Uniformity, right.
Suspension, exactly. So if this is something that all of you agree on,
Makes
then
sense.
I would
Motion.
ask for a vote.
Second.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, it's unanimous then. Very good. Second item of new business, and we've asked Dr. Barry Jordan, our medical director, to be here. The Medical Advisory Board met on August 6th of this year and recommended new testing, and Dr. Jordan will explain what that new testing is and how often it would be required if you approve this.
Okay, the blood is a blood test. It would be drawn on a one-time basis, and the blood test would include a CBC, which is a complete blood cell count, PT, PTT, and INR. These are all parameters in the blood that will assess the boxer's ability to stop bleeding or to coagulate. There aren't too many states that require this test. New Jersey is one state that currently does. They do it on a one-time basis. So if someone, say it was like a hemophiliac or some type of bleeding disorder, these blood tests would pick up that condition. So the Medical Advisory Board recommended that it would be done on a one-time basis, not on an annual basis, but just one-time basis to identify any boxers that may have some type of bleeding disorder. The CBC itself doesn't necessarily look at bleeding, but it looks at the platelet count. The platelets help you clot also. So that's the reason for including the CBC. From my experience, we haven't had too many boxers that license are denied based on these blood tests, but we have had a couple in the last year or so where this blood work came from New Jersey, and we disqualified the boxer or denied a license to the boxer.
I think it's a good test.
Good
I think
test.
it's a
Second.
good thing to adopt.
Unanimous.
Chairperson, like to make a motion?
Make a motion.
I second it.
It's a great test. New Jersey's been doing it for a while, so I think it's pretty cool.
So the understanding from the Medical Advisory Board, as Dr. Jordan said, is that these tests would be given on a one-time basis,
One time only.
And then on an as-needed basis if the medical director or other appropriate physician felt that an additional test was required at a later date. But for the most part, we're talking about just one time in the boxer's life to be licensed here.
So if we had a one-time boxer flying in from another country once, and that'd be it. We have one.
Right.
Good.
A couple of documents that you received in the package are here for you to vote on, to approve, hopefully. One is that we made a change to the boxer application, and we provided that to all of you. So the boxer application is satisfactory as it now stands. If you have questions about it, we can talk about it, of course. Essentially, the change, if you want to take a look at Part D in the top paragraph, the previous boxer application contained an acknowledgement that the boxer would have to sign that he would be subject to urinalysis testing. The change here is that a boxer, by signing Part B of this application, would be agreeing to submit to drug and or steroid screening at any time during the license period. This is in keeping with what other states are doing and really with the advances in knowledge about drug use and performance-enhancing drug use. And this essentially allows the commission to testify to these substances at any time when they're licensed by New York State. So that's the change.
Is that for the sort of year of their license? For the entire
Exactly.
Okay. Is there a process in place for us to do that?
That would be a next step, and it's something that the commission just would have to think about and discuss at a later time, but we wanted to at least set the stage for that discussion, again, to allow this to happen if it makes sense in terms of boxer safety. Obviously, there'll be financial considerations which have to be taken into account by the commission at the appropriate time. But this essentially creates that foundation which will allow us to go in that direction.
Yeah, it's good. I was about to ask that too. There was a process already in place. So then what we would have to do after that is then develop the process or discuss what kind of a process it would be. I think what we need to also mention, since we've had that conversation about the, and I think that would probably come in under number 2. The parties shall agree that we're going to abide by the rules. That we did have a conversation about, I think, Rule 210.22 that says the rounds shall be 180 seconds unless. So I think we need to mention the fact that we're in the process of trying to establish a 3-minute round for all bouts, including the female bouts. The females now do 2 minutes. They have to sign this saying that they're in agreement with upholding our rules. And first of all, I think that the contract is really nice. It's easy to read. It's clear. It's easy to understand. I think all parties reading it can understand it. But I think that how are we going to allow the females to understand that right now they have an option, but there's going to be a time period at some point when the option will no longer be available? Is that?
Sure. I mean, I can tell you how this came about. A promoter approached me and said that he was planning on putting on a women's bout, and one of the women was refusing to fight 2-minute rounds, wanted to fight 3-minute rounds. Obviously, that was not the practice that was in place, but it is the rule that's in place. In other words, the New York's rules do not distinguish between men's and women's bouts in terms of the length of the round. All rounds are expected to be 3 minutes unless the commission approves otherwise.
Unless authorized by the commission. So we always have that option.
Sure.
I mean,
so that's how this came about, and he actually gave me a paper from a boxer, Lisa Garland is her name, I believe, who argued why 3-minute rounds should be the standard for women's bouts. And it had to do with really issues of equality issues of fair pay. Her argument was that because women were fighting shorter rounds and shorter fights, it gave promoters an excuse to pay them less. She believed that 3 minutes was the appropriate standard. We had discussions internally with legal staff, also with Dr. Jordan. We were assured that legally this is really what we should be doing because this is the rule that we have on the books. And medically, Dr. Jordan assured me that there's no medical contraindication to having women box 3-minute rounds. So with those factors and those considerations in mind, what we've done is we've notified promoters that in the future we expect this to be the standard. It'll certainly be the promoter's job when they sign bout contracts for women's bouts to notify the fighters what they should expect when they come to fight. We understand it's a transition period, that people aren't used to this idea yet, and so at least during the near future, if women make a specific request for a round that's shorter than 3 minutes, it's certainly something that we'll consider until the idea of 3-minute rounds for women becomes more embedded and more accepted. But the hope and the standard will be a 3-minute round for women going forward. Again, subject to your approval today.
Ravina, okay by me?
Yeah, no, I have no. I just wanted it explained because we had this
3-minute
conversation. We had this conversation in the office a couple of
I
days
thought
ago.
it always was 3 minutes.
And I certainly have no issue with the stamina of the female versus the male. I certainly have no issue, and they seem to want it. They've wanted it in the past, but I just could not get two athletes to want to do it at the same time. If we're getting that now, and they both agree to do the 3 minutes, I think we should go. With it. I don't have an issue with that. As I stated before to David, I actually think it's easier on the judges
to assess 3 as opposed to 2, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, and we still have the rule. The rule is unless authorized by the commission, 180 minutes, unless authorized. So,
180 seconds.
180 seconds, 180 minutes. Can you imagine that? That'd be a long. We'd be going until tomorrow. But
the
I
amateurs
certainly,
used to be always 2-minute rounds. I
Right.
remember in the Golden Club when
Right.
it was always 2 minutes. Yeah.
But I have no issues with 3-minute rounds
Okay, that's it.
for
Let's go to
females.
something
So
else.
I mean, but then what we have to do is decide on like how, is this going to be indefinite or until such time as we note that that we have more that are making the request.
Well, essentially, this is the standard now.
Something that we're going
and
to
it's-
look for establishing in the future, or
I think frankly, I think it's established now because this is what our rule says. And I guess here today we're simply acknowledging that this is what our rule says and that this rule applies to all boxers.
So
male and
if a female fighter then comes to us and says traditionally, and I'm just using that magic word because I think we should, that traditionally all female bouts have been 2 minutes, then we will reassess on an individual basis depending on the boxing, the fight, but make an absolute for all title fights. I think maybe we should be.
Well, I mean, if I may, as Mr. Berlin had stated, the rule currently in existence is that unless specifically otherwise directed by the commission,
Right.
every single fight which occurs in the state of New York must be 3 minutes. So that, in theory, would be applicable to men, female, title, non-title fights. So unless the combatants, the promoter, make a particular request to the commission for consideration, it should be sort of just assumed that the rule on the books is going to be applied and that the fight will be a 3-minute round. Now, there's nothing in law which would, for example, prohibit
Right.
2 male fighters in a world title fight from requesting a different length fight. there's nothing to prohibit them from making that request. It's ultimately up to the commission as to whether or not the commission will approve it in its discretion and sound judgment. So it's really not a situation where it's actually necessary, I think, where we're going to have to deal with this type of request frequently or make a specific sort of notification to the parties, because the law is the law. The law
Absolutely.
says it's 3 minutes.
Okay, so
Okay.
you know what? With
That's
that,
clear.
with that clarification, then I
That's
just
it.
move that we adopt the new contract.
Second.
And move on.
Okay.
I just got a question before we go with it.
Okay.
Quickly. So they still have the option to go back to the 2 minutes. Can't we?
Well, it's
No, we've been through this
but
already.
according to our
Point
rules,
say
Right.
3 minutes.
according to our rules, it is what it is
Yes. You can have it.
with the authorization of the commission.
Okay.
So if they come and make a specific request to the commission for a specific number of rounds or a specific number of minutes per round, then I guess you would make an assessment at that time. But right now, we'll do a blanket unilateral 3 minutes for everybody that comes through.
Right, Chairperson
Very-
Lathan is correct.
Thank you.
That's what the rules
All
say.
right, thank you.
Okay,
So she's
I
correct.
agree.
Patience.
All right, that actually I think was related to the Boxer application. And has that been unanimously approved then?
I believe that was, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what it
Very good.
wasn't.
the
That's
bout
well,
contract.
one thing that wasn't, and that we spoke about that I think we needed to clarify. That once they sign that, they're agreeing to all the rules and with the understanding that you're now, according to our rules, you are now fighting 3 minutes.
Correct.
So, okay.
And the bout contract is another document that I distributed to all of you. As you can probably see, it's broken down in a way which I believe provides clarity to the parties signing the contract. This, I think, will be particularly useful for the fighters who have to read through this document. There are a couple of items in the contract worth noting. One, and this item was in the previous contract as well, and it is consistent with what our rules say. In cases where a bout is canceled through no fault of the boxer, a boxer will, and again, in the discretion of the commission, but the standard is that the boxer will receive 50% of his purse. So that's contained in the new contract, as it was in the old contract, and as it is in our rules. A second item in the bout contract worth looking at is that in the new bout contract, and this is different than the old, the boxers will be waiving the 3 knockdown rule. Although you know the 3 knockdown rule, which says that if a fighter is knocked down 3 times in the same round, he will lose by knockout under our rules. Our rules allow the boxers to waive that 3 knockdown rule with the consent of the commission. Essentially, by including it in the bout contract, except in instances where a boxer specifically says, I refuse to waive that, a boxer signed in the contract will be waiving the 3 knockdown rule. I believe this is appropriate because it puts us in line with the unified rules of boxing, which no longer has a 3 knockdown rule, and with the trend in boxing and in other states. Essentially, this will leave it to the good judgment of our referees to make a decision whether it's 1 knockdown or 10 knockdowns, whether a fighter can continue or not
Absolutely.
continue.
The referee.
Yeah, we never used it anyway, so this way it's documented, and it's in keeping with every other state and the unified rules. So that's good.
Good. So if everyone's in agreement, then I guess the
Absolutely.
vote is to approve the new bout contract, and if it's approved, then we will begin using it starting later today.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Chairperson Lathan?
Agreed.
All right. One more item to vote on. boxing gloves. We continue the approval process and the testing process I gave you just this morning, actually. Professional boxing glove evaluation forms, 2 of them for the Protex 3 glove. As you can see, the weights of the gloves, again, 2 separate pairs of gloves were measured. One of them had a 7.8 ounce right glove and a 7.6 ounce left glove. The other had a 7.8 ounce right glove and 7.8 ounce left glove. The measurements, as we've talked about in the past, are never exact. Gloves are handmade. Every glove is made individually.
Right.
And so the 8 ounce or 10 ounce requirement that we have, depending on the weight division, is never followed to the exact ounce. The question is whether you will approve the Protex 3 gloves, which are used in many other jurisdictions. Some of them are California, Nevada, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the Mohegan Sun, whether you will approve this glove for use in New York as well.
I don't see a reason not to. I think we should go ahead and adopt the use of the gloves. Approved.
Second.
Unanimous?
Unanimous.
All right, very good. Just one other item, which is for discussion and not necessarily for a vote. I would have included this in the executive director report, but thought that there might be a desire for some discussion on this issue. We had a show at the Paramount on Long Island on July 18th, and it was an ESPN show, Friday Night Fight show, and we agreed to allow our referees in that card to wear what ESPN calls a ref cam. It's essentially a small camera that's attached to the lapel of the referees. I will note that there were no complaints about it, no incidents on account of the referees using it, and really not a lot of fanfare over that. I did speak with the 2 referees who were going to have this ref cam attached to them in advance of the fight, actually prior to the date of the fight, and both of them agreed to wear this. Steve Willis and Pete Santiago were the 2 referees who appeared on TV and wore this ref cam. It's worth noting that I know there was a discussion and an issue about this in the past where HBO wanted to use another type of referee camera, which would have involved apparently a heavy vest that referees would have to wear. The ref cam, the new technology is what it is, I suppose, but the ref cam that was used by ESPN is really no bigger and no more weighty than what refs were already being hooked up to, which was a microphone. So it's really, in this case, in fact, they did not put the mic on because the ref cam has both functions, both the mic and the camera. So on account of that, there was no greater burden on the referees. As I said, the referees themselves agreed to it, and we set strict parameters for ESPN that they could only use this ref cam to capture ring action, not to capture anything in between rounds, not to capture anything in the dressing room. So it was only for their use to capture ring action. My thought was that in terms of attracting business to New York, we want to be cooperative with television, with networks. And the only time I think that we wouldn't be is if by cooperating with them, it meant that we were somehow compromising our regulatory authority or our regulatory functions. In this case, I don't believe there was any compromise. We accommodated them. We allowed them to use a new technology. It was not a greater burden on the referees. And so we gave the go-ahead for ESPN to use this ref cam. So I wanted to bring that up in case the commissioners wanted to discuss.
I think we should continue the discussion on that. I'm not freely or feeling very free about allowing that to happen right away. If you note from the cast, the telecast, they did make reference to the referee, and they did it in a negative fashion by stating on air that he missed a low blow. And they only saw that because he was wearing this camera. So along with the parameters to not film in the ring or in the corners or in the back room, okay, that's a given, but how do we know how the visual is going to be used? If it's it's television, so there is a sensational aspect to having another POV, but if it's not used properly, then it puts our referees or our licensees in a difficult situation, in spite of the fact that they agreed to use it. So I think that's something that we should continue to have a discussion on. I don't think that we can make a decision on that at this
Absolutely.
at this moment.
This total mechanization maybe I'm just getting old, but I agree with you. This has to be reassessed and reevaluated. Anything like that intimate, create all kinds of.
It's a distraction, I think.
Yes,
They'll be
definitely.
concentrating on getting the view rather than the mic was the mic. You just spoke into it. But yeah, I think it would be a
Visual
little distraction.
camera, no,
if they
I'm
wanna
opposed
try
to
to
it.
do the best view, and I agree
At
review it.
first blush, I'm opposed, but
I am
discuss it
opposed
if you
also.
will. Does that wrap it up?
No, I mean, that's why we're having the discsion, actually.
No,
That's
I'm
why
talking
I
about
raised the
another. I
topic.
thought another issue was coming.
No, this is the final issue.
Okay.
And before we, okay, or did you want to finish about this?
Well, I don't know where this discussion leads unless we have it now, frankly. And it's, and frankly, I don't know that I understand the
I have a
comment
judging
in terms
experience.
of.
I could see. I was always wired with a microphone in the amateurs at the final of the Golden Gloves, and that was a slight distraction because you want to watch. You're cautious of what you say between rounds and how you say it. Now you're going to be cautious of what your view is, or am I trying to distract it to get the best view for the television people? I find it a distraction.
I don't
And I
believe
don't- I
that
don't think that
referees
it's
think
also-
about think that they're cameramen. It's simply something attached to the lapel, and they do their job with this
I don't
mechanism
even, I don't
attached to the lapel in
think-
the same way that a mic has been attached to their lapel for well over
But with
a
a mic,
decade.
no
I
one's
believe.
trying to get the. Maybe this guy wants to get the best shot rather than his. He may be
You're saying
distracted.
the referee wants
Yeah,
to get the
yeah.
Could
best
get
shot?
Yes.
distracted. Say, oh, I could be the
Subjectively.
guy that made that view. I want to be. I find it a distraction. But
And I don't think that it necessarily will bring more televised boxing to New York State. I think that I don't think that's going to depend on whether the ref is wearing a cam or not.
Well, probably not on that one factor, but I think there is something to be said for being cooperative with television networks, with
Yeah.
ESPN, with HBO, with Showtime,
Absolutely.
accommodating their
We
needs.
have to promote.
And I think, what we're talking about is a new piece of technology, a new type of camera, but these referees are already under the microscope. We have cameras.
Exactly.
Television
They're already under the
broadcasting
microscope.
companies have cameras. So is the idea of protecting referees that we shouldn't allow broadcasts here, that we shouldn't allow cameras at our fights?
No.
I mean,
But
no one's suggesting that.
I've
So-
seen them used in other places, and it's never been complimentary. It's never been said that from this point of view, the referee has done the absolute perfect job. The referee has done the correct thing. The referee, it's always to find a fault, a very heavy fault about something that they've done that they shouldn't do, or they missed something, or And I don't know. I don't think that that's
Negativity is
conducive
the-
to
is
the
the
good
nature of the media.
sport. Yeah.
Yeah,
But not,
absolutely.
but it
Commentary
shouldn't
is
be.
always going to be critical, and
Let the
this is true
commentary-
with other
let-
camera angles
let-
as well. That the commentary is going to be critical. I would suggest. I mean, although we care about our licensees, our judges, and our referees, it is also our function to evaluate referees and judges. That's part of the commission's function. Obviously, we're evaluating them all the time. We're making decisions about who should be working certain fights. So if that camera catches a situation where a referee doesn't see a low blow, I don't know why this is information that the commission would not want to have in terms of fulfilling our function.
I'm not. I don't.
Next thing you're going to put cameras on the
don't-
fighters themselves. This is getting to me the ludicrous almost.
And I don't-
I'll
I
be
don't-
opposed to cameras that you're alluding to,
And I don't.
Period.
I don't think that.
and it's not going
I
to
don't
enhance
think
the
we're going to
game
have
in any
that
way, shape, or
discussion right
form.
now.
Mr. Berlin,
I think
if I
that-
may suggest, I think that the commissioners are raising a valid point, and I think that your presentation as to testing this pilot was appropriate in the circumstances. To the extent that there may be additional networks that would request this, I may suggest that through you they contact the commissioners and make their points as to how they would use this equipment, and the commissioners then make a decision on an individual basis going forward. But I think that they bring in a valid point as to their concerns, and it seems to be like something that it's in their realm. So
Very good. Thank you.
I would, before we close,
Yes.
I want to make a statement about one of our own officials here in New York State. Yesterday, Luis Rivera, one of our longtime, actually he was an amateur boxer, he's a professional boxer, he was a referee, and he was a judge. And he transitioned, he passed away yesterday. I'd like to
What
offer...
age and what cause?
He was ill. I'd like to just offer condolences to his family. I want to say that he was a fixture at the Old Felt Forum from 1978 to 2009, and he refereed boxers like Mike Tyson, Meldrick Taylor, Roy Jones, Buddy McGirt, Billy Costello, Murky Sosa, real blast from the past. Even Dokes, Michael Dokes. I mean, I can think of any number
Big fighters.
of very big fights that he had, and I just wanted to make a note that he'll be missed.
He'll be missed.
Absolutely.
And he was a great
I'd like to see
person.
a picture of Louis if I could.
Full
Do you have
of
a
life.
photograph
He
somewhere?
was. I have
See
one.
if
I have one at
see if it
home.
Sounds familiar.
I have one at home. He was full of life. He was a fantastic dancer. He was salsa. He was merengue. He was fantastic, as well as a boxer.
How about
and a
pachanga,
judge.
cha-cha-cha?
Pachanga, cha-cha-cha. Oh yeah, he could do it. He was a fixture at the Copa.
He never changed.
No,
I knew him since '80.
That's sad to
Always
hear that.
full of life. Always like, wow, you
Sad
can
to
go to
hear
him
that.
and feel confident.
Can I strike a
Exciting.
comedic note here before we depart? Because
Yes.
it's sticking in my craw.
yes,
So I want to lighten up the proceedings as we
Do
have
it.
to say.
do it.
So Tuesday, and this is entre nous. This camera ain't on, right?
No, it's
It's
still
on.
Oh,
Take it off.
Well,
It's we close.
Okay, all right. We have to.
Further commission business?
No.
Is there a
No,
motion to adjourn?
make
Yeah.
a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We got a stool pigeon here.